Hello there. I don't know why I'm running so much at the start of these videos, but exercise. Hello, you cheeky criminals. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm about to have a great one because I'm in front of Zankou Chicken, one of the most popular chain restaurants in the greater Los Angeles area, which makes some very tasty food, apparently. That said, Zankou Chicken is also home to a very dark past, and I figured, well, you know, us being the dark travelers, the dark gourmands, the dark tourists of sorts that we are, I figured that made this perfect for a true crime mukbang. So let's go.
This one.
Vietnam construction. Twin brother, we are Armenian.
Oh, you're Armenian?
Yes, we are.
You're Armenian, so you come to Zankou often?
We come often, yeah. When we come in here, first we stop over here.
Oh wow, so as Armenians, you would say this is very authentic?
I love their food. It's good, it's delicious.
Vietnam construction.
There you go.
If anyone watching this wants some construction work done,
call us.
Hi, how are you doing? What do you say is the I guess the most popular dish? What's your favorite? The kebabs? You want the kebabs? Let's do the kebabs then. Great. The baklava too would be great. I love a good sweet treat. This table's hot. A little closer. There we go. Okay. Hello again, you cheeky criminals. I have here my Zankou Chicken and I am ravenous. It is 3:18 right now and I have not eaten a thing today. So, very hungry. I'm sure you're all very hungry for a morbid true crime case. Let's see what's in it. Arabic bread. Lovely. Love that. I don't want to say it's pita in case I misspeak, but I'm assuming it's a pita-like bread. And right here we have the main star today, which is the, look at that, woof. I was not expecting that. That looks fucking phenomenal. Okay, great. We have rice, but we also have some assorted meats from the shish kebabs. We have, I believe, steak, chicken. We got a grilled tomato here. We have tabouleh, I think. Don't want to misspeak, someone in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong. And we have here the iconic kind of white garlic sauce that Zankou Chicken is very, very famous for. It's a sauce that's been heavily imitated by other restaurants trying to replicate the magic that is this sauce. But apparently it is a secret recipe that people still have not cracked to this day. And so I'm excited to have it. I'm starving, so I'm gonna start digging into this, but don't you worry, I will also start digging into this true crime story. Because I know that's what you're here for. You're not here for this face of an angel. Maybe someday you'll be here just for me. So like I said before, Zankou Chicken is a true Los Angeles institution. Let's get a little bit of this. That's very good. That's very good hummus. But yes, it's a true Los Angeles institution. There are multiple locations in Los Angeles. If you live here, you've probably been to one. You're visiting, I would highly recommend you go, at least based off this hummus. Now, while the first Los Angeles location opened in 1983, the original actually opened in 1962 by an Armenian man named Vartkes Iskandarian. And I apologize profusely, as always, if I mispronounce names. I tried to look some research up online on how to pronounce these names, but sometimes things slip. But yes, Vartkes opened the first Zankou Chicken back in Lebanon in 1962. The Iskandarian family, though, then immigrated to the US, and it was Vartkes' son, Mardiros Iskandarian, who decided to open the first Zankou Chicken here after he noticed that there just weren't a lot of good Armenian Middle Eastern offerings for the growing Armenian and Middle Eastern community here in Los Angeles at the time. Vartkes and Margarit, the parents of Mardiros, were hesitant about opening up a Zankou Chicken here in Los Angeles, but Vartkes convinced his family to do so. The first location was opened in the neighborhood of Little Armenia here in Los Angeles on the corner of Sunset and Normandy, which is the location we were actually just at. There was one actually closer to where I lived, but I figured, you know what? Let's go to the original. Why not? You know? And needless to say, based on the quality of the food as well as the very, very reasonable prices they offered their food at, Zankou Chicken was an instant success. Well, I actually don't know if it was an instant success, but it became a success very, very, very quickly because that burgeoning Middle Eastern population, they were craving good quality home style food like this at a reasonable price. And on top of that, then word would spread around and people outside of the community started eating at this famed Zankou Chicken. LA Times called Zankou Chicken the best roast chicken in town. You also had acclaimed critics and food writers like Jonathan Gold praising Zankou Chicken. And I don't know why I keep talking about how much praise this food got without actually trying the actual chicken. So let's give that a whirl. So I got the chicken here first. Let's do it properly, huh? Well, actually, you know what? I was gonna wrap it up in a peanut butter. Let's just try it with the famed garlic sauce. As I said before, this garlic sauce here is one of the things that made them very, very famous. So we're gonna get a little bit of that garlic sauce on this chicken. I don't know if it's because I'm starving, but that's fucking good. That is delightful. Wow, okay, well, I might need to take a moment here to eat a little bit before I continue the story. Fuck. We'll get a little bit of pita bread, put a little bit of beef in it, hummus in there too. Oh, we're gonna really make this bad boy good. We're gonna really do this right. We're gonna put some rice in there too. Don't worry, we'll get to the tale of murder in a little moment. Pop's very happy right now. Well, now that I've tasted the food, I can attest that it is very, very, very good. And because of how the food is and was at the time, success just came to Zankou Chicken and to the Iskandarian family. Mardiros, again, the son of Vargas and Marguerite. Mardiros is the one who decided to open up the original restaurant in Los Angeles. I mean, he saw the success they were having, so he thought, oh, well, we gotta open up more. I mean, the family was hesitant. They weren't sure if they could open up more restaurants, but Mardiros said, hey, we can do it. And Mardiros' plan was that they would open up 2 more restaurants, which he would run, and then the original restaurant would be owned by his parents and his 2 sisters. And despite the split ownership, this did not mean that they were, splitting up the business, the finances, or anything like that. That was just how they were structuring the management, because overall it was still going to be a family business with this garlic sauce, which I should note was actually a secret recipe from the mother of the family, the patriarch, Marguerite Iskandarian. She was still going to be supplying all the restaurants with her famed and secret garlic sauce. And it was all still going to be kept within the family. It was very important to Mardiros that everything be within the family. It was a very tight family, which makes this story I'm telling you all the more tragic. In 1992, sadly, the patriarch of the family, the founder of Zankou Chicken, Vargas Iskandarian, he would pass away. Despite the very sad passing of Vargas, the family continued to see great success with their restaurants. More locations continued to be opened up across Los Angeles, and the Zankou Chicken empire was growing, and they were making a lot of money. However, all the success would soon be marred by a very tragic series of events. In the early 2000s, around maybe 2001, 2002, I couldn't get a confirmed date, unfortunately, Mardiros Iskandarian, who was the son, again, that basically was running this empire, he found himself in a very deep battle with both colon and brain cancer. A very sad situation to be in because it was terminal. It was basically incurable at the point that it was caught. And it wasn't caught until very late because Mardiros was just so entrenched in the family business, in his work, that he kept pushing off his doctor's appointments, despite the fact that he was feeling growing pain in his body. And by the time he went, sadly, it was too late, and the cancer had spread to a point where he was most likely going to die very soon. After realizing that he may not have too much longer to live, Mardiros gathers his entire family, his wife Rita, his mother Marguerite, his 2 sisters who run the businesses with him, as well as his 4 sons. Basically, he gathers the family together to break them this news, although Mardiros makes it very clear that he is going to fight the cancer until his very last breath. But Mardiros does say that if I were to die, upon my passing, I am leaving Zankou Chicken to be inherited by my 4 sons. Now, this sparked reactions. Apparently at the time, his 2 sisters were just completely gobsmacked in general by the entire situation, learning about his diagnosis, learning about where the company would be going, and so they were basically speechless. However, their mother, Marguerite, she was very visibly not happy and made it very clear how she felt. You see, at the time, the 4 children of Mardiros and his wife Rita, the 4 sons, they weren't doing so great out in the world. One of them, I believe, had been caught cheating on a law entrance exam or some sort of college exam, and after he was kicked out and not allowed to take that exam, he became one of those evangelical street preachers that you see on the corners, with those signs that say, you're all going to hell. That's one of the sons. Another one of their sons had actually been on trial for attempted murder. You see, because he had a rendezvous with a sex worker, and that sex worker's pimp decided to steal money from him, to which he reacted by chasing them down the highway and firing at their car and trying to kill them. So he thankfully did not kill them, but he still went on trial for attempted murder and only got off because of a mistrial. And at this point, the Iskandarian family and Zankou Chicken, they were famous throughout LA, especially within the Armenian community. So this type of gossip ooh boy. And so when this was going down, everyone in that community, they knew, about all this dirty laundry. They all knew about the trouble that Mardiros and Rita's sons were getting into. So with that knowledge, Mardiros' mother, Marguerite, she clearly did not see them fit to run this empire. She stands up at this meeting and she says, and I quote, "The shadow they cast is not yours." And then she leaves the room. Awkward, to say the least. So now at this point, everything was going downhill. Mardiros began chemotherapy and this obviously very grueling battle with cancer. And throughout this entire time, very sadly, his mother, Marguerite, with whom he had been so close his entire life, she just gave him the cold shoulder. She began icing him out. She gave him the silent treatment for months as he was battling double cancer. And I want to stress how close Marguerite and Mardiros was. I mean, Mardiros at one point told his wife early on that, my mother's going to be living with us. And she did. Marguerite was still living in the same house with her son, Mardiros, and Rita, her daughter-in-law, all the while giving her dying son the silent treatment. Because of this very tense and obviously hostile and heartbreaking, honestly, environment, and on top of that, obviously Mardiros' worsening condition, he began becoming more paranoid. He began conjuring up these ideas that his mother, Marguerite, and his sisters were plotting against him. At one point, Mardiros actually found a picture of his mother and him, and he tore her out of the picture before lighting her half on fire and throwing it in the bin. And if that's not wild enough, shortly after, their house went up in flames. Their house burned down. It's been said that later Mardiros would go to his son and say that the fire was all his mother's doing. So yes, things were not good in the household at all. And after the fire, Marguerite decided to move out of the house and would move in with Mardiros' sister, her daughter, Zovig Margic. And again, apologies if I'm mispronouncing any names. And even before we get into the murders, I just want to say that it's all very sad, right? I mean, here you have a son, one who is dying of a very painful and slow death, and who has been completely iced out by this woman who he's loved his entire life, his mother. And sadly, this whole, sad series of events doesn't end there. On January 14th, 2003, Mardiros gets up and he decides he's actually going to leave the house, to the shock of his wife Rita, because up until that point, he had been bedridden for months and hadn't been out of the house. He hadn't been out of the house. He hadn't been out of the house. He hadn't gone into work. But that morning he tells Rita, "I'm feeling all right. I want to go out. I want to go to Zankou Chicken to go see an old friend." And his wife Rita says, "Okay, well, go on then." But before he left though, Mardiros armed himself with a 9mm handgun and a .38 caliber revolver. And Mardiros did not go to Zankou Chicken as he told Rita. He did not go to see an old friend. Instead, he went over to his sister's house, the same sister with whom his mother, Marguerite, was now living. He had apparently called them to say that he was coming over to discuss, the family business, family affairs. Upon Mardiros' arrival, the housekeeper greets him. He goes inside, greets his sister who just came out of the shower. He gets some lemonade. His mother comes down, greets his sister, and Marguerite, his mother, does greet him as well, and they sit down to talk. The housekeeper leaves to allow them their space to talk family matters, and they do so. They at least talk, they make idle chit-chat at least for a few minutes. But after a few minutes of idle chit-chat passes, Mardiros suddenly pulls out one of his guns and shoots his sister point blank. His sister, I believe, instantaneously dies, and she collapses over in her seat. Mardiros' mother screams and runs for the door, but Mardiros beats her there and blocks her off. Marguerite pleads with her son in Armenian not to shoot her, but he ignores her pleading. Mardiros fires one shot into his mother's chest and she falls, but he doesn't stop there. Mardiros then stands over her, basically straddling her, and fires the gun 7 more times into her heart. Moments later, Mardiros sees his grown nephew quivering, trembling on the stairway, thinking his uncle was going to kill him as well, but he doesn't. Mardiros goes into, I believe, the living room and sits down on the couch before putting the gun to his temple and shooting himself. Horrifically, tragically completing a double murder-suicide. Despite the levity of us trying out this food and maybe having some fun with that, it's a tragic case. It's a very sad case. This case sent shockwaves throughout, not just the Armenian community here in LA, but the greater LA area as well, because again, Zankou Chicken has become such an institution. And to hear that the owner of Zankou Chicken had shot and killed his own mother and sister before killing himself, it's horrifying, and it's heartbreaking again, considering everything that led up to it. You know, this fallout between a mother and son that were seemingly so close. And after the fact, you have children who have lost a dad. You have children who have lost a mother. You've lost their grandmother. You have a widow in Rita Iskandarian who is now thrust with the responsibility of trying to manage the family and the business. And there were even more like legal disputes within the family after the death to see who would gain control of the Zankou Chicken name and trademark and all that jazz. But the bottom line is, though, that 3 people were murdered in a horrible situation. And I think going beyond the whole, like, you know, true crime mukbang kind of thing, it's curious, or at least makes me curious and wonder, you know, what other dark and horrifying tales lie, you know, behind some of the world's most popular businesses. You could be going to a very popular mom and pop shop or a street food stall or whatever in your part of the world, but it's curious to think about, you know, what's going on behind the scenes. And it's not our business to know what's going on behind the scenes, but it's still, you know, curiosity is an innate quality in all of us as humans, or at least many of us. And so I don't know, you know, a story like this, especially after having had the food too, just makes me, you know, I feel like when I go into places now, I'll be thinking, what's their story? Everyone has a story. Every place has a story. And so this has been a very interesting story to dive into with all of you while trying some fantastic food, because thankfully, despite this horrific series of events, Zankou Chicken is still in business and I believe thriving, because they still have multiple locations throughout LA. So I do encourage that if you live in LA or if you're ever visiting LA, do try Zankou Chicken. I believe they even have vegan options if you don't eat meat. But yes, go into a Zankou Chicken and try some of this very, very good food. And you can even tell them, you can go up to the counter and say, hey, Aria sent me. And they'll say to you, who? That said, either way, thank you as always for being here by my side as I dive into these very depressing stories, honestly. It makes it better to have company, and so I'm very grateful that you're here. And I do want to give a very big special thank you and shout out to our Patreon members. If you don't know, I've just launched a Patreon, and so it's been very exciting to see some new faces in there, and so I'm very grateful to those that join the Patreon. And as always, though, there's no pressure for you to join the Patreon if you're not able to. You'll still get videos right here on this channel for free, as always. But if you want to join the Patreon, the link will be down in the description below. I forgot I have baklava. 2! Ah, I didn't know they gave it in packs of 2. I just asked for 1, and I guess you get 2. If you did find this true crime / taste test restaurant review type video interesting, let me know, and then maybe I can make more. You know, everything I make is for you guys, so if you guys want more of these, I'll give it a whirl. And if you have places you want to suggest I try, do it. I'll be traveling to make videos for you all soon, so always happy to try some good food, especially if it has a really interesting story behind it. That is good.